time, Jani Hakanpää is a Leaf, and apparently, so is Max Pacioretty. Oh, let's talk about it. You know what? Hakanpää just signed, that's official. Let's talk about Max Pacioretty, because here is the sequence of events. First, the Toronto Maple Leafs announced Max Pacioretty will attend Maple Leafs training camp on a professional tryout, or PTO, and I said, ooh. Then, Chris Johnston, one of the most reputable insiders in all of hockey, said Max Pacioretty will attend Leafs training camp on a PTO. Yes, we know that. Expect him to sign a contract before the season. Oh! Then his agent, Alan Walsh of SDPN's Agent Provocateur podcast, says, we expect Max Pacioretty will sign a contract with the Leafs before the start of the season. It's one thing when an insider says it, but when a player's agent straight up says, yes, we expect to sign it. Oh! So for all intents and purposes, Max Pacioretty's a Leaf? Until a contract is actually signed and announced, it does have to be said with a question mark on it. And the Leafs cap situation, especially now with the Jani Hakanpää signing, makes things that much more fascinating. So just yesterday, we were talking about Nick Robertson signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he signed at 1 year, $875,000. If $875,000 sounds like a very specific amount of dollars, there's a reason for that. The Toronto Maple Leafs, who had not yet signed Jani Hakanpää, but sound committed to signing Jani Hakanpää to $1.5 million. That is the number that was reported on July 1st, and I'm going to talk all about Jani Hakanpää in a second. It was rumored he was getting $1.5 million on July 1st. Robertson signs, the Leafs are over the cap. Now, you're allowed to go over the cap. Before the season begins, you need to be cap compliant on day one. Right now, the Leafs can go above the cap by 10%, and they're nowhere near that. But Connor Timmins, I'm pretty positive he's not going to be on this team, whether he's sent down to the minors or waived and claimed or traded or whatever it is. They're not going to have him on the team anymore. Unless there's like some disastrous injury during the preseason or something, he's not going to be on the team. And you can be pretty confident of that because after signing Nick Robertson, if you subtract the $1.1 million contract that Connor Timmins has, that would leave the Leafs with exactly $333 in cap space. Not 333,000, 333. And these numbers are according to puckpedia.com. Basically, it seems like they're setting the tables for, they're going to sign Hakanpää. But then the deal gets announced today, and it's a little different than initially reported. It's not quite $1.5 million, and it's definitely not 2 years. It is a 1 year contract at $1.47 million. So again, this leaves the Leafs over the salary cap by about $1,069,000. Nice. But again, you subtract the $1.1 million that Connor Timmins is making, and that leaves the Leafs now with $30,333 in cap space. Now that doesn't sound like much, but it's an amount that will accrue cap space over the season, a luxury that the Leafs haven't had in recent years because you can't accrue cap space with LTIR. It's all very complicated, and if it's going over your head, don't worry, it's kind of over mine. So if the Leafs are already over the cap and they have to get rid of guys to make the cap, then why do they have two guys at training camp on PTOs, plus the consideration of Fraser Minton, who started the season with the Leafs last year, plus the consideration of Easton Cowan, who might just make this team out of camp? How are the Leafs going to sign Steven Lorentz and or Max Pacioretty? Especially Max Pacioretty, on account of his agent appears to be under the impression that there's a contract coming. Someone either has to get traded and or waived and or sent to the minors and or there's some sort of injury that could happen in training camp. Now, last year, the Leafs had Sam Lafferty. He was kind of a luxury for them. They didn't have the cap space for him, and they ended up trading him to the Vancouver Canucks for a 5th-round pick. Boo. Lafferty was better for the Vancouver Canucks than a 5th-round pick's worth of value, but the Leafs got a 5th-round pick for a player they didn't want and weren't going to use, and the Vancouver Canucks got a very useful player. Both teams sort of win there. Canucks won more than the Leafs, let's be honest. All throughout the year, all the time, when it comes to your favorite hockey team, you're always like, ooh, they might do this, or they might do that, or they might do that. With the Leafs, you can almost be guaranteed that they are up to something. Even if everyone walks out of the situation, Minton and Cowan both go back to junior, and Lorentz and Pacioretty are both released from their PTOs. Even if that were to happen, then the Leafs are accruing cap space throughout the season and they can use that for future nonsense. All that to say, the Leafs are up to something. Now, Jani Hakanpää, he's the guy who's actually signed to a contract. Why do you care? Well, Jani Hakanpää has played for 3 teams in his young NHL career, and all 3 of those teams are incredible at identifying defensive talent. Now, I shouldn't say his young career. He's actually somewhat of a late bloomer at 32, but his first NHL season wasn't until the 1920 season. He was a 4th round pick of the St. Louis Blues in 2010, but he didn't show up in the NHL until 2019. And that was with the Anaheim Ducks. Now, you might roll your eyes and go, the Anaheim Ducks are not good at identifying defensive talent. That is not true at all. They are not good at assembling a good hockey team, or at least not in recent memory. But this is an organization that has churned out Shea Theodore and Brandon Montour, and those are guys, oh, geez, Hampus Lindholm basically iced the Leafs in the spring. I'm not saying Hakanpää is any of those guys. I'm just saying if you were drafted and or developed by the Anaheim Ducks as a defenseman, there's a decent chance you're decent. Simone Benoit, anybody. I don't care what you think of the guy. He's definitely better than you thought he was going to be. During the 2020-2021 season, he was sent to the Carolina Hurricanes in a trade. Another organization, other than their weird obsession with Tony DeAngelo, that produces almost exclusively really good NHL defensemen. And over the last 3 seasons, he has been a defenseman with the Dallas Stars and a huge part of that Dallas Stars team. He's here to kill penalties. Let me give you some Jani Hakanpää numbers, and that'll become more and more obvious as we go. So, I looked up some stats on NHL.com. I isolated it to players over the course of the last 3 seasons who have played a minimum of 75 NHL games. That's basically at least 1 full season of hockey over the last 3 seasons combined. Over those past 3 seasons, Jani Hakanpää is tied for the second tallest at 6'7", and he shoots right. The Leafs need those. They always need those. NHL.com has Hakanpää listed at 222 pounds. The Leafs media release for this signing has him listed at 225 pounds. Put it this way, over the course of the last 3 seasons, only 94 players have registered at 220 or heavier, according to NHL.com. That is a select group of the league. Time on ice per game over the last 3 seasons, keeping in mind that all 3 of these seasons were spent with the Dallas Stars, who have been very good, 18 minutes and 2 seconds per game. Over those 3 seasons, he is a plus 29 combined, and important to mention, over his NHL career, Hakanpää has never been a minus player once. He has a penalty differential of minus 26. That means he's taken 26 more penalties than he has drawn, and that sounds terrible, and actually it's ranked 644th in the NHL over that span, and it sounds disastrous until you realize he's actually tied in that category with Chris Letang, Victor Hedman, and Brandon Montour. So maybe defensemen just tend to take more penalties. Hits over the last 3 seasons, 668, which ranks 11th in the entire NHL and 4th among defensemen. Hits per 60 minutes, he ranks 76th in the entire NHL over the past 3 seasons, 10th amongst defensemen. The guy hits. Blocks over the last 3 seasons, 351. That's 51st. Blocks per 60 minutes, 5.34. That ranks 60th. Keeping in mind, this is over the last 3 seasons combined. That's a lot of players. This is where you're like, oh, that's why they signed him. Penalty kill time on ice over the last 3 seasons combined. 659 minutes and 40 seconds. That is 10th in the entire NHL. Penalty kill time on ice per game, 2 minutes and 55 seconds. That is tied for 10th in the entire NHL with Devon Toews of the Colorado Avalanche. Players' percentage of teams' shorthanded ice time. That's on NHL.com. I can't believe that. 61.4% of Dallas's penalty kill ice time over the last 3 seasons. Jani Hakanpää has been there. That ranks 3rd in the entire NHL behind teammate Esa Lindell and Andrew Peeke. Worth mentioning, okay, he's been on the ice a lot. Worth mentioning, Dallas has the 5th best penalty kill over the last 3 seasons combined. So, Jani Hakanpää has played the 3rd highest percent of his team's penalty kill time on ice over the last 3 seasons for the 5th best penalty kill in the NHL. The guy is big, the guy is mean, he'll hit you, he'll put himself in front of pucks, he'll kill penalties, and he'll probably do it well, and he'll be right-handed when he does it. Listen, If you're out there free agent hunting and you want someone to kill penalties for you, and the Leafs do, that's a good guy. That's a good name. Really good name. Wow, this sounds incredible. Why haven't I heard of this guy? And where is the catch? And why is he only making $1.47 million against the cap? And why did his contract go from 2 years down to 1? Well, wow. Okay. So when the Leafs didn't announce that they had signed Jani Hakanpää. It was merely reported that Hakanpää was signing with the Leafs. But at the July 1st press conference for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you can go back and watch this, Brad Treliving was asked about Hakanpää, and he talked about Jani Hakanpää. So since July 1st, it sure sounded like the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs was under the impression that Jani Hakanpää was going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. But it was either that day or the next day, Steve Simmons of the Toronto Sun reported that a lot of people in NHL circles were surprised to see Hakanpää sign because due to a knee injury, this guy might not play again. Dallas really missed him in their playoff run this year that went pretty well, but it was cut short by the Edmonton Oilers. They did not have Hakanpää after March due to injury. Now, over the past few years, the Leafs have taken a bunch of players where we've looked and gone, geez, that guy's been pretty banged up. Geez, that guy's probably past his best. Geez, I didn't think that guy was ever going to play again, and sure enough, that guy goes on to play again. One example could be Tyler Ennis, a player who, he looked like he was cooked, and then he played in Toronto, and he was pretty decent in Toronto, scored a hat-trick in Toronto, and he parlayed that into another NHL contract. Some of the older guys that have been with the Leafs over the years, part of the reason they've been with the Leafs over the years is the Leafs are pretty good at managing the health of older guys. And dude, take a look at training camp right now. There's Hakanpää, who the Leafs have monitored his knee situation over the entire summer, and what better organization to be in if you have this issue. And Max Pacioretty has had 2 Achilles injuries in recent memory. By the way, that's why he's on PTO. Hey, how come? That's why. He's had 2 Achilles injuries in recent memory, but he's come to Toronto. He's chosen Toronto. Now, there's an opening in Toronto, potentially on the wing, but it seemed like yesterday we solved that problem with the Nick Robertson signing. So what's going on? The Leafs have a strong belief in their medical staff and in their development staff, sports science staff. They have a strong belief that they can take guys who are hurt, guys who were maybe once great and are no longer because their bodies are failing them. They can take those players and they can make good reclamation projects out of them. And these players obviously think that the Leafs are correct in their assumption that they can do that because they keep coming here and signing here and playing here and getting better here. Honestly, with regard to the Hakanpää signing, the thing that worried me the most over the course of the summer was the 2-year part. You can go into LTIR if you need to, but you don't want to. And it's obvious that the Leafs don't want to either. That's why they're actually trying to have cap space when the season begins, it looks like, even if it's a little. So let's say Hakanpää starts this season and you got to throw him on LTIR and he's not going to play again. Well, then you got another full year and Now this is basically the situation that the Leafs had with John Klingberg, except at like a quarter of the price, maybe a third of the price. Listen, Klingberg has been a great defenseman in the NHL over his career. The Leafs are like, hey, what if we could rebuild him? And they tried. And they couldn't do it. What do? You throw him on LTIR and you move on. Was it the best idea? Did you have to give him 4.5? This isn't that. It's a guy signing for a hair under 1.5 mil, and the player thinks he can play. The team thinks he can play. And if he can play, he's kind of exactly what you need. He's big, he's mean, he shoots right-handed, and he kills penalties. Hooray. I don't question the signing. I don't question whether or not this guy is going to be able to play. What I do question, or rather what I'm confused by, is how are the Leafs going to get Pacioretty under contract? What is that contract going to look like? And how does someone like Steven Lorentz, who's on a PTO, Easton Cowan, who is a junior eligible player, Fraser Minton, who's a junior eligible player, Nick Robertson, who has a contract but wants to be in the bloody lineup, how do these guys all get what they want, which is a spot on the Toronto Maple Leafs? could be an interesting camp. One last thing before we go. I'm raising money for Easter Seals Ontario. It's a charity that helps out kids with physical disabilities. My sister is one of those kids. My family is an Easter Seals family, and Easter Seals has helped us. Every year I play in a hockey tournament terribly. I'm a terrible hockey player. I play in this hockey tournament not because I'm like, hey, I'm good at hockey and I'm going to get a few tucks. No, I stink. I stink a lot. I do it because I believe in Easter Seals Ontario and I try to raise money for them. Link in the description down below if you want to donate to my team. And here is a little incentive for you. Ron Fox, who's a listener of the show, he has donated a pair of Leafs tickets to the Leafs game on Saturday, November 16th. Leafs Oilers. Woo! And I'm going to be giving those tickets away to one donor. One donor picked at random. If you donate any dollar amount to myself or anybody on my team, you are automatically entered into the, raffle? I guess it's a raffle to win this pair of Leafs tickets. Leafs Oilers, November 16th. If you want to donate to a good cause and have a chance at seeing Austin play Connor, there you go. Easter Seals Ontario, Rachel's Raiders is my team. For now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Of course, this happened on the same day that we recorded a podcast, Steve Dangle podcast, and the Chris Johnston show. There is a new CJ show. But guess what? Both the SDP and the CJ show are going to be back with new shows Friday. Check it out.